all people went upon their 10 toes in wild wonderment. Bishop's Hall's satire. I am, that is to say, I was a great man. But I am neither the author of Junius nor the man in the mask, and for my name, I believe, is Robert Jones, and I was born somewhere in the city of Fumfudge. My first action in my life was taking hold of my nose with both hands. My mother saw this and called me a genius, and my father wept for joy and presented me with a treatise on nosology. This I mastered before I was breeched. I now began to feel my way in the science, and soon began to understand that, provided a man had a nose sufficiently conspicuous, he might, by merely following it, arrive at a lionship. But my attention was not confined to theories alone. Every morning I gave my proboscis a couple of pulls, and I swallowed half a dozen of drams. When I came of age, my father asked me one day if I would step with him into his study. "My son," said he, when we were seated, "what is the chief end of your existence?" "My father," I answered, "it is the study of nosology." "And what, Robert," he inquired, "is nosology?" "Sir," I said, "it is the science of noses." "And can you tell me," he demanded, "what is the meaning of a nose?" "A nose," my father replied, greatly softened, "has been variously defined by about 1,000 different authors." Here I pulled out my watch. "It is now noon or thereabouts. We shall have time enough to get through them all before midnight. To commence, then, the nose, according to Bartholomew's Bartholomew's is that protuberance, that bump, that excrescence, that—" "Will do, Robert," interrupted the old good gentleman. "I am thunderstruck at the extent of your information. I am positively upon my soul." Here he closed his eyes and placed his hand upon his heart. "Come here." Here he took by the arm. "Your education may be considered as finished. It is high time you should scuffle for yourself, and you cannot do better thing than merely follow your nose. So. Here he kicked me downstairs and out the door. "So get out of my house, and God bless you." And I felt within me the divine afflatus. I considered this accident rather fortunate than otherwise. I resolved to be guided by the paternal advice. I determined to follow my nose. I gave it a pull or two upon the spot, and wrote a pamphlet on nosology forthwith. All Fumfudge was in an uproar. "Wonderful genius," said the Quarterly. "Superb physiologist," said the Westminster. "Clever fellow," said the Foreign. "Fine writer," said the Edinburgh. "Profound thinker," said the Dublin. "Great man," said Bentley. "Divine soul," said Fraser. "One of us," said Blackwood. "Who can he be?" said Mrs. Bobloo. "What can he be?" said Mrs. Bobloo. "Where can he be?" said little Miss Bobloo. But I paid these people no attention whatever. I just stepped into the shop of an artist. The Duchess of Bless My Soul was sitting for her portrait. The Marquis of So-and-so was holding the Duchess's little poodle. The Earl of this and that was flirting with her salts. And the Royal Highness of Touch-Me-Not was leaning upon the back of her chair. I approached the artist and turned up my nose. "Oh, beautiful," sighed her Grace. "Oh, my," lisped the Marquis. "Oh, shocking," groaned the Earl. "Oh, abominable," growled his Royal Highness. "What will you take for it?" asked the artist. "For his nose?" shouted her Grace. £1,000, said I, sitting down. £1,000, inquired the artist musingly. £1,000, said I. "Beautiful," said he, entranced. £1,000, said I. "Do you warrant it?" he asked, turning the nose up to the light. I do, said I, blowing it well. Is it quite original? He inquired, touching it with reverence. Humph, said I, twisting it to one side. Has no copy been taken? He demanded, surveying it through a microscope. None, said I, turning it up. Admirable, he ejaculated, thrown off quite by his guard by the beauty of the maneuver. 1,000 pounds, said I. 1,000 pounds, said he. Precisely, said I. 1,000 pounds, said he. Just so, said I. You shall have them, said he. What a piece of virtue! So he drew me a check upon the spot and took a sketch of my nose. I engaged in rooms in Jermyn Street and sent Her Majesty the 99th edition of Nosology with a portrait of the proboscis. That sad little rag. The Prince of Wales invited me to dinner. We were all lions and recherches. There was a modern Platonist. He quoted Porphyry, Iambulus. Iamblichus, Plotinus, Proclus, Hierocles, Maximus Tyrus, and Cyrinus. There was a human perfectibility of man. He quoted Turgot, Price, Priestley, Condorcet, de Stael, and, quote, the ambitious student in ill health, unquote. There was surpositive paradox. He observed that all fools were philosophers, and that all philosophers were fools. There was aestheticus ethics. He spoke of fire, unity, and atoms, bipart and pre-existent soul, affinity and discord, primitive intelligence, and homoerotic omeria. There was theologos, theology. He talked of Eusebius and Arianus, heresy and the Council of Nice, Puseyism and consubstantialism, homoousios and homoousios. There was fricassee from the Rocher de Cancale. He mentioned Meriton of red tongue, cauliflowers with veloute sauce, veal a la Saint Menehould, marinade a la Saint Florentine, and orange jellies on Moscays. There was Bibulus o Bumper. He touched upon Latour and Mark Brunin, upon Mousseau and Chambertin, upon Richburg and St. George, upon Halbrine, Leonville and Medic, upon Barak and Bragnock, upon Grave, upon Sauterne, upon Lafitte, and upon Saint Pere, He shook his head at closed de Lugo and told of his eyes shut the difference between sherry and amontillado. There was Signor Tintino from Florence. He discoursed of Cimabue, Arpino, Carapaccio, and Agostino, of the gloom of Caravaggio, of the amenity of Albano, of the colours of Titian, of the frowns of Rubens, and of the waggeries of Jan Steen. There was the president of Funfludge University. He was of opinion that the moon was called Bendis in Thrace, Bubastis in Egypt, Diana in Rome, and Artemis in Greece. There was a Grand Turk from Stamboul. He could not help thinking that the angels were horses, cocks, and bulls, and that somebody in the sixth heaven had 70,000 heads, and that the earth was supported by a sky blue cow with an incalculable number of green horns. There was Delphinius, polyglot. He told us what had become of the 83 lost tragedies of Aeschylus, of the 54 orations of Isaias, of the 391 speeches of Lysis, of the 180 treatises of Theophrastus, of the 8th book of the conic sections of Apollonius, of the Pindar's hymns and dithyrambics of the 45 tragedies of Homer Jr. There was Ferdinand Fitzfossilis Feldspar. He informed us all about internal fires of tertiary formations of air forms, fluid forms, and solid forms, about quartz and marl, about schist and scoral, about gypsum and trap, about talc and calc, about blende and hornblende, about mica slate and pudding stone, about syenite and lepidolite, about hematite and tremolite, about antimony and chalcedony, about manganese, and whatever you please. There was myself. I spoke of myself, and of myself, of nosology, of my pamphlet, and of myself. I turned up my nose and I spoke of myself. Marvelous clever man, said the prince. Superb, said his guest, and the next morning her grace of blessed my soul paid me a visit. Will you go to Almack's, pretty creature? She said, tapping me under the chin. Upon honor, said I. Nose and all? She asked, as I live. I replied, here then is a card, my life. Shall I say you will be there? Dear Duchess, with all my heart. Pshaw, no, but with all your nose. Every bit of it, my love, said I. So I gave it a twist or two and found myself at Almack's. The rooms were crowded with suffocation. He is coming, said somebody on the staircase. He is coming, said somebody farther up. He is coming, said somebody farther still. He has come, exclaimed the Duchess. He has come, little love. And seizing me by both hands, she kissed me thrice upon the nose. A marked sensation immediately ensued. Diavolo, said Count Capricornuti. Dios guarda, muttered Don Stiletto. Milite toneris, ejaculated the Prince of de Grenouille. Tausend Teufel, growled the Elector of Blood-enough. It was not to be borne. I grew angry. I turned short upon Blood-enough. Sir, said I, you are a baboon. Sir, he replied after a pause, Donner und Blitzen. This was all that could be desired. We exchanged cards. At Chuck Farm, the next morning, I shut off his nose and then called upon my friends. Bete, said the first. Fool, said the second. Dolt, said the third. Ass, said the fourth. Ninny, said the fifth. Noodle, said the sixth. Be off, said the seventh. At all this, I felt mortified and so called upon my father. My son, he replied, is it still the study of nosology, but in hitting the elector upon the nose, you have overshot your mark? You have a fine nose, it is true, but then blood enough has none. You are damned. And he has become the hero of the day. I grant you that in Thumb Fudge, the greatness of a lion is in the proportion to the size of his proboscis, but good heavens, there is no competing with a lion who has no proboscis at all.